My name is Harper. I'm 28 years old and run a leather shop. I married Lucas, a customer who ordered a wallet for my workshop 4 years ago. We have 3 children, Oliver 14 and Mason 12, Lucas's sons from a previous marriage, and Noah, our 3-year-old. Lucas owns a pizzeria. I heard his first marriage didn't work out due to his ex-wife's infidelity. I don't regret marrying him, but I'm really struggling with his 2 older boys. They just haven't been taught basic manners. Things like table manners and folding their clothes neatly. I've tried teaching them, but they don't listen, not seeing me as their mother. Thankfully, there's no sibling rivalry, as they both adore our youngest, Noah. Oliver and Mason eat a lot, so it's helpful when they play with Noah while I'm cooking. But beyond that, they seem to harbor some hostility towards me. Their speech and thought patterns are just like their father, Lucas. I thought I was marrying a reliable leader before our wedding, but he became more commanding after we tied the knot. He must have always been self-centered. Since Lucas talks to me in such a manner, the kids probably think it's acceptable. Lucas comes home late, so the kids eat dinner before him. I'm teaching Noah how to use a fork and spoon, but Oliver and Mason complain about it.
Noah, you don't need to learn the correct way. As long as you can eat, it's fine.
That's right, you can't eat like me with any style. This makes it hard for Noah to practice. For Noah, holding it correctly looks cooler. In private, I encourage him, and we continue practicing slowly. However, the one thing the kids look forward to is Parents' Day at school. They seem proud to have a young mom. They check what I'll wear and how my hair will be styled for Parents' Day. After it's over, they wait for me and make a show of our close relationship, but in a soft voice.
We call you Mom, but we don't consider you our mother,
they always say. I reply, okay, I'll keep trying until you accept me. I plan to raise them equally with Noah. Lately, Oliver, maybe in his rebellious phase, seems to disdain me, almost like he sees me as a servant. I feel a growing distance between us. Initially, I tolerated it, as typical teenage behavior, but it became too much, so I talked to Lucas. Hey, Oliver's defiance is getting out of hand.
Am I supposed to do something about it?
He replied, showing his usual disinterest. Frustrated by his attitude, I still insisted he take it seriously, as it's about his son and our family. Tired of my talk, Lucas said,
I'm going to bed,
and tried to leave. I quickly told him about Oliver's behavior. When I try to eat with him,
don't come near me. Don't talk to me,
he says. He also tells me,
I have a real mom, so stop acting like one.
And Mason copies him, which hurts. Lucas just nods while looking at his phone. Listen to me and think about it, I insisted.
I am listening. Stop nagging. You're worrying about this shows you're not a real mom. If you think you're a mother, figure it out yourself. Parenting is a mother's job, right?
Parenting is a responsibility of both parents. Lucas clicked his tongue and said,
You make this home uncomfortable. I come home tired and need relaxation. Maybe you should let their real mom take them.
As he headed to the door, I asked where he was going.
To my woman's place. You knew, right?
Are you cheating? I asked.
You didn't know? How much do you trust me? You're so naive.
He laughed, then left. That only added to my confusion and worries. Lucas didn't come back after that. Oliver and Mason continued their defiance. I searched online for how to deal with rebellious teens and tried to avoid the listed don'ts. Don't react to every reaction. Keep a watchful distance. I stuck to these. While working in my workshop, I pondered what to do about Lucas and the boys. Noah, our youngest, has become increasingly clingy, uneasy about the changing environment and reluctant to go to childcare. One evening while cooking dinner, Oliver and Mason approached me.
We heard our dad say our real mom wants to take us back.
Dad said that? I don't know. Then Mason, looking happy, said,
Big Brother contacted Dad and arranged to meet our real mom today, so we don't need the dinner you made. We're going to our real mom's place. You're pitiful, abandoned by both Dad and us.
I wanted to respect Oliver and Mason's desire to meet their real mother, but I mentioned they needed Lucas's approval.
Dad said to decide after meeting our real mom. We'll eat tonight and leave with our stuff tomorrow.
I realized that Lucas, Oliver, and Mason had already discussed this.
You're pitiful, abandoned by both Dad and us.
Deeply hurt me. And so, Oliver and Mason left to meet their real mom. The repeated mention of our real mom made me lose all confidence as a mother. Hours later, they returned, seemingly overjoyed from their meeting, too excited to even notice Noah talking to them. They were so excited about their mothers that they could not hear Noah when they spoke to each other, and they began to pack their bags. I asked Oliver, "Are you going to live with your mom? When will you come back?" Perhaps my question hit a rebellious nerve, as Oliver ignored me. Mason said,
Mom wants to live with us. She'll ask Dad to let us stay with her forever. Goodbye.
I contacted Lucas, likely living with his affair partner, to ask if he knew and consented to the boys living with their mother. Lucas revealed that his ex-wife had long wanted the kids back, and he thought it was best to let them choose. Feeling everyone involved wanted this, I told Lucas. "Understood," I said. When I spoke to Lucas after a long time, he was calm. I wanted to confront him about living with his affair partner and our future. Lucas' response was,
"Oh, I was planning to come home and talk about this. I'm living with her now. She's pregnant, so I'm taking responsibility. Let's get divorced."
"Pregnant? Divorce?" I was overwhelmed by loneliness. My cherished family had long been broken. To Lucas, Oliver, Mason, and even their mother, I was just disposable. My mind went blank, tears uncontrollably flowing. I had considered overlooking the affair for the kids, but a pregnancy was too much. Realizing I was unloved in this marriage, my heart ached. For hours, my memory was a blur, filled with tears. I tried to stand, but my ears rang, muffling all sounds. Thankfully, during this time, Noah had stayed by my side, asleep holding my hand. I tucked Noah into bed and checked Oliver and Mason's room. They had left early, unable to wait till tomorrow. Longing for my brother Robert's voice, I called him. Robert had opposed my marriage to Lucas till the end. I expected reprimand.
That's why I opposed to it back then.
But just wanted to hear his voice. I broke down before Robert even answered. When he did, I couldn't speak through my sobs. Sensing something, Robert said he'd come over. I couldn't bear being alone, and waited for him at the door. Robert, living nearby, arrived in about 10 minutes, bringing lots of beer.
"When you're upset, drinking's the best,"
he said, putting his arm around me and leading me inside. He went into the kitchen, checked the fridge, and started cooking with what was available.
"Stop crying before the food's ready. You'll make everything too salty,"
he joked, trying to cheer me up. Noah woke up, delighted to see his favorite uncle. Robert's cheerful nature makes him beloved by everyone, from kids to the elderly. Reflecting, I realized Robert's opposition to my marriage might have been because he saw Lucas's true nature. Thanks to Robert, I stopped crying and regained some calm. Robert brought the food and beer to the table. He told me to sit across from him, so I did. Noah naturally sat on Robert's lap, being affectionate. I realized I hadn't made Noah this happy or seen him smile like this recently. Feeling guilty for always trying to please Lucas, Oliver, and Mason, I blamed myself for that. Robert said,
"Have you eaten anything today? You haven't, right? No excuses. Eat."
He waited for me to eat. I tried a bite of Robert's cooking and was surprised at how delicious it was. Noah also said it was tasty and ate more than usual. Before I knew it, my son and I had finished everything. After we ate, I finished the dishes while Robert played with my son. When I joined them, Noah was sleeping peacefully on Robert's lap. After putting my son to bed, Robert sat next to me on the sofa.
So what happened? Tell me.
And asked. I told him everything that was in my heart, and he listened intently, nodding. After I finished, Robert asked,
Is that everything?
That's what I hear. Yes, I replied.
Harper, since you got married, the only happiness you've had is Noah's birth, right? And the only fun, his growth. How about Noah, seeing his mom unhappy? Let's think about Noah's happiness together,
he said. Then we toasted with beer, laughed, cried, and got angry. With Robert's help, I decided to move forward. When I woke up in the morning, I was in bed with Noah. Robert had made breakfast for Noah and me before leaving a letter behind. The letter read,
Harper, keep protecting Noah. I'll keep protecting you. Get ready to move.
After reading the letter, I slowly talked to Noah. Your brothers and dad are gone, so you and I will move. Noah understanding something even at 3.
I'm okay, as long as I'm with Mom.
We decided to prepare for the move together and took the day off from childcare. We packed up our few belongings and, with Robert's help, completed the move using his car. The new location is on the 2nd floor of the workshop. The new home was above the workshop, which was a renovated part of my late parents' house, with the 2nd floor unused. Robert suggested and helped execute the move there. After settling in, I informed Lucas I agreed to the divorce. Lucas seemed relieved and cheerful. I'm taking only Noah. Just need child support for him, I said. Lucas, already having plans for Oliver and Mason, didn't object. He agreed to pay a lump sum for alimony and Noah's child support. I told him I'd sign the divorce papers after confirming the deposit. His pizzeria, popular for its all-you-can-eat and drink, was profitable, so he transferred the agreed amount quickly. I met Lucas at a cafe, signed for the divorce papers, and submitted them to the court together. Lucas wanted to ensure I really filed for divorce. After submitting the papers, we parted ways, with Lucas in a good mood. I returned to the workshop and worked until it was time to pick up Noah from childcare. I was able to focus on work for the first time in a while. At childcare, I was relieved to hear from the teacher that Noah seemed unchanged. Our life as a twosome at home began, with Noah as cheerful as always. A week into our new life, Oliver called.
Hey, why aren't you here? I'm hungry. Come back and make dinner. You don't do housework without us.
Confused, I said, What? I'm not coming back. Didn't Dad tell you? Oliver, unaware.
I'll call Dad, then I'll call you again.
He said he'd call back after talking to Dad. I wondered why Oliver and Mason, supposedly with their mother, were at our old house, but decided not to dwell on it, as they were no longer my concern. A few hours later, Oliver called, asking me to meet at a cafe. At first, I'm not going. However, he said that if I didn't come, he would come to the workshop. So I reluctantly decided to head to the cafe. When I arrived at the cafe, Oliver, Mason, and Lucas were already there. I remained standing. What business? I asked. Then there was Oliver.
I heard what you said. I'm going too.
Mason nodded and seemed to be waiting for my response, but I decided to summarize the incident. You're living with your mother. You went to the house we used to live in together. You called me to make food because you were hungry. I told you to ask Dad why I'm not there, and you called him. You called me to this cafe. Is that okay? So what's the reason? I asked, and Oliver started to tell his story rapidly. They lived with their mother, but she dumped all the housework on him and Mason and did nothing herself. Sometimes her boyfriend would come over, making them feel uncomfortable. They were told not to go to high school, but to work and contribute money to the house immediately. Regretting their decision, they ran away from their mother's house and returned to their old home, only to find it messy with laundry, dishes, and trash everywhere, leading him to call me in frustration. He called his dad, as I suggested, and learned about our divorce for the first time. Lucas said,
Your mother hasn't changed, but you two wanted to live with her, right?
Oliver got angry at Lucas for not telling them about their mother's true nature, saying he wouldn't have left if he had known. Lucas laughed at Oliver's anger.
My current wife hates housework too, and it's a disaster.
Oliver then turned to me and said,
We'll live with you then.
I laughed and replied, No way, you guys have changed your surname, haven't you? Didn't you know? Oliver was stunned. Well then, there's nothing more to talk about, so I'm going home. When I tried to leave, Lucas said something unbelievable.
Let's go back to the original family. Harper, you and the boys can come back. I'll kick out my current wife, since she's unfit.
Oliver and Mason looked at me expectantly, waiting for my answer. After sighing, I said, I only need Noah as my family. Remember what you did to me? Can you really say that after recalling everything? Who would want to return to that hell? And finally, with more anger than I expected, I said, Enough of your jokes. Now it's my turn to leave you behind. I left the cafe. As the door closed behind me, I heard the sound of glass breaking, Oliver's yelling, and Lucas shouting,
Stop!
I didn't look back and went home. Since then, I've had no contact from Oliver or Lucas, and I'm living happily with Noah. I asked the cafe owner what happened after that incident. The police came due to the family fight, and both father and son were taken away. The owner billed them for damages and got paid. I also learned about Lucas, Oliver, and Mason's current situation. Lucas apparently cheated again and left home. He ran his business poorly, causing food poisoning, and had to close down. Oliver and Mason went back to their mother. Lucas's new wife, who was after his money, disappeared when the money ran out. Her pregnancy was a lie. Thinking about how I was once part of such a troubled family makes me shudder. I could only be grateful to Robert for rescuing us. Thank you, Robert.
I found your child on the balcony, so I brought her here.
In the middle of a freezing winter night, the doorbell rang. When I answered it, a police officer was standing there. I didn't understand what was happening. After all, my only daughter was sleeping beside me. The officer had him with a girl about 5 years old, her lips blue and shivering coldly. She's not my child. I don't know this girl. I tried to explain, but the officer seemed doubtful, saying he would take her to the hospital. The girl's hair was overgrown and completely unkempt. Her dirty clothes had holes in them and they didn't look like they had been washed. She appeared the same age as my daughter but was very thin. Who is this child? Why was she on my balcony? Little did I know that the turmoil this girl would soon bring into our lives. My name is Janice. I'm a 32-year-old office worker. I lived on the first floor of an apartment that my parents bought for us, with my high school classmate husband and our 5-year-old daughter, Susie. My husband was also a company employee and often traveled for work. Being a good person, he would cover for his colleagues even on his days off, so he was often away. One day, while my husband was on a business trip, my daughter and I were home alone when the doorbell rang. In the middle of a freezing winter night, I wondered who it could be, and looking through the doorbell camera, I saw it was a police officer. I was baffled by this unexpected visitor, but when I opened the door, he said,
I found your child on the balcony, so I have brought her here.
I had no idea what he meant. Yes, my daughter is sleeping inside the house.
What?
The officer's eyes went wide, but I was the one who was really shocked. How had that girl gotten onto the balcony while I was asleep? I hadn't heard a thing. The officer had with him a girl about 5 years old, her lips blue and shivering uncontrollably. It had been so cold that it seemed like it might even snow, so it was no wonder. She's not my child. I don't know this girl. The officer seemed skeptical even after what I said, but he stated,
I'm taking her to the hospital now.
The girl looked so cold and pitiful that I brought a warm blanket from the back of the room and wrapped her in it. Her hands were like ice, so young, yet holding back tears and biting her lips without making a sound. Her hair was messy and her collar stained. Hole-ridden clothes showed no signs of having been washed. She looked incredibly thin and pale, as if she was malnourished. Who is this child? Why was she on my balcony? I couldn't help but wonder, and my heart ached thinking about a girl the same age as my daughter in such pain. I couldn't sleep much that night, worried about her. And morning came, that's when I got a call from my husband.
Anything unusual happened while I was on my business trip?
Well, yes, a strange girl was on our balcony. The police took her and they're taking her to the hospital. I was so surprised.
Why didn't you take care of her yourself?
What? But she's a stranger. What could I do?
You're a mother too. You should have taken care of that little girl instead of handing her over to the police. Isn't it sad?
I was baffled by my husband's sudden anger. Why did he know the girl was young? We hadn't even talked about that. I questioned him, but his answer was lacking in clarity.
No, actually, she's the daughter of an acquaintance of mine. Her mother's gone, and I felt sorry for her, so I brought her yesterday. I thought you would take care of her.
What? You weren't on a business trip? You need to explain the situation clearly. My husband apologized, but I couldn't believe that he had left such a small child on the balcony on such a cold day. Even if he had dressed her warmly, she could have easily frozen to death. So, what are you doing and where are you now? My husband said he was in the middle of searching for the girl's mother, but I felt like he was hiding something. Later on, after returning from his business trip, my husband gave some explanation, picked up the girl from the police, and shockingly left her with me. Did you find her mother? What about her father?
No, I haven't found them yet. The father, I don't know.
So, who's the acquaintance you mentioned?
Well, that's just a casual acquaintance. Let's leave it at that. I'm going on another business trip soon.
Wait a minute, what about this girl? My husband ignored my plea to stay and left, leaving the girl behind. I felt something was off about my husband's behavior, so I searched through his belongings and found something in the inner pocket of his suit. Shocked by the content, I quickly called my husband, but I couldn't get through to him. Suddenly, I noticed my daughter Susie and the little girl looking up at me anxiously. What's your name? Ashley? Ashley nervously answered in a small voice, told me she was the same age as my daughter, 5 years old. When I smiled gently at her, she looked at me with surprise, then laughed cheerfully, clutching her rumbling stomach. You must be hungry, right? Yes. I made Hawaiian plate lunches for my daughter and Ashley. They stared at the food in curiosity and then began to devour it. They ate so fast that their faces were covered in sauce. As I reached out to wipe her face with a tissue, Ashley quickly brought both hands to her head, covering it as if protecting herself. The motion gave me an uneasy feeling. It's all right, I'm just going to wipe your mouth, I said gently. With a relieved expression, Ashley turned her face towards me, and after I wiped off the sauce, she began to eat her Hawaiian plate again. After finishing her meal and wearing a completely satisfied expression, it was time to do something about Ashley's dirty body. As I started to undress her for a quick shower, I involuntarily gasped at the sight of her body. What is this? There were countless bruises as if she had been beaten and pinched. Trying not to show my agitation, I led her cheerfully to the bathroom. As I tried to wash her body, Ashley said, "It's okay, I can do it myself," and started to wash her body with cold water. Wait a minute, what are you doing? I accidentally snapped. She looked up at me with a puzzled face and said, Ashley always does it like this. What? Washing your body with water? I asked. She nodded at my question, and as she tried to pour cold water over herself, I hurriedly stopped her and washed her whole body cleanly with soap. Afterwards, I poured warm water over her and she murmured, "It's warm," with a contented look. It turned out that she rarely got to shower at home, and when she did, her mother would tell her to wash with water. The fact that she accepted this as normal without questioning, it made my heart ache. After the bath, I dressed her in my daughter Susie's clothes and neatly arranged her hair. Ashley looked completely transformed. My daughter and Ashley looked just like sisters when they stand together. I looked at my daughter and Ashley, whose faces seemed to remind me of each other with a warm smile. Ashley was an obedient and gentle child, and I could tell she was longing for affection. She would come by my side as I cooked, tug at the edge of my skirt and laugh. And when it was time to sleep, she would hold my hand and never let it go. Susie also grew fond of Ashley, and the two became close like real sisters. A week went by and I still couldn't get in touch with my husband. Ashley's mother said she knew my husband, but I couldn't keep caring for a little child on just that information. I gave up on contacting my husband, consulted the police, and Ashley had to be sent to a facility. Tears rolled down her big eyes and my heart ached watching her look back at me again and again as the people from the facility took her away. Time continued to pass without any news from my husband until I finally made a decision. 9 years later, I was living with my parents, my daughter Susie, and Ashley in our family home. I had actually adopted Ashley after she was taken to the facility. My parents in our family home treated her like their real grandchild, saying she came to us for a reason, and showered her with love. The two girls grew up as sisters and blossomed into beautiful young women. Susie and Ashley's dream of becoming models came true, and lately, they are being featured as beautiful junior models in magazines. Stepping into the glamorous world, the two were thriving and wore vibrant expressions on their faces. One day, the doorbell rang at our family home, and when I opened the door, there stood my ex-husband Philip, looking poor, down and out. A stranger who introduced herself as Joanna was with him. Not wanting to argue in front of the neighbors, I let them inside. Then, sitting on the living room sofa, the two abruptly began to speak.
In truth, Ashley is my child.
Philip, who hadn't contacted me in 9 years, said this without even apologizing. I was so stunned that I let out a big sigh. She looks just like you. I thought it might be you, so is that woman over there your partner? In response to my question, Philip nodded and began to tell the story of how he met the woman. Joanna had been working part-time at a bar Philip frequently visited. Even knowing that he was married with children, they got along and she became pregnant with Philip's child, giving birth to Ashley. However, Philip lacked decisiveness and didn't divorce me right away. Joanna grew tired of childcare and abandoned her role as a mother. In desperation, Philip thought of having me raise the child. It was an overly naive story, but what surprised me was not just that.
Please, give Ashley back to us.
My ex-husband suddenly stood up from the sofa and made an outrageous request, almost in tears, along with a deep apology. What? I happened to see a magazine and was surprised. She's grown up so well. Isn't she popular? So what? It has nothing to do with you two. But I am Ashley's real mother. You are just a fake after all. How dare you say such a thing without contacting me all this time? Then, Philip, who had been on his knees on the floor, grabbed my leg with a pathetic look on his face.
We don't have any money and are in trouble. Ashley's our only hope. Give her back.
How awful! You plan to make her work and live off her? No way!
What? You're using Ashley to make money, aren't you? That's not fair.
Stop making false accusations. I'm saving the children's money on their banking cards. Ashley is my child too. I will never hand her over. Then, Joanna suddenly rises from the sofa, launching at me with an air of recklessness that sends shiver down my spine. What are you doing to my mom? Stop it. In the scene bursts Ashley, my daughter. She spreads her arms wide, blocking my path, and glares at Joanna. Ashley, you've grown so beautiful. Remember me? I'm your mom. Let's go home together. You're not my mother. Get out of this house now. Ashley broke down in tears, clinging to me. Although Ashley was very young at the time, it seems a faint memory of the terrible treatment she endured remains. Ashley, dear, that's just a misunderstanding on your part. See, you were so young back then. In response to her flimsy excuses, I produced a note and photograph that I had found in Philip's suit back then. The note read, I don't want to raise a child. I can't find Ashley cute. Get rid of her somewhere. If you won't marry me, let's run away together. And the photograph showed a young Ashley covered in bruises. I also had the hospital medical report, of course. Do you still claim to be her parents after seeing this? That's... You wanted to dump a child you didn't want to raise on me, didn't you? You made this precious child suffer such horrors. That was all Philip's doing. I didn't know anything about it. I was too young to raise a child. It was inevitable. But anyway, I'll take Ashley back now. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I have legally adopted Ashley, so I am her parent. Oh, what? That has to be a lie. The mention of the law quickly deflated Joanna's momentum. However, Philip seemed to not have given up yet.
So, if that's the case, I'll break up with Joanna and let's start over. Susie and Ashley are my children. We'll just go back to being husband and wife, so there won't be any problem, will there?
What? What are you saying? You just want things to go your way? Like I will let that happen? Listening to their exchange, I was dumbfounded, then angry. I don't want to have anything to do with these people, not even for a moment. I have more bad news for you, Philip. You and I are no longer married.
What?
3 years after you went missing, I filed a lawsuit and was granted a divorce.
Hey, what are you doing on your own?
Just as Philip was about to grab me, the sound of a police car approached. My parents had called the police after seeing Joanna's aggressive behavior. Well, the police are here now, so please don't come to our house again.
No way, please forgive me. I'll give up on Ashley, but at least lend me some money.
Philip put on a disgraceful show to the very end. Afterwards, he and Joanna were dragged away by the police. I plan to make sure Philip pays the alimony and child support in full. The two of them, cut off even from friends and family, will likely continue to struggle. Though there's been much turmoil, the little girl who once trembled in fear has grown splendidly. I will live happily with my parents and 2 loving daughters, looking forward to the future they speak of so full of dreams.
When is Teresa ever going to leave this house? It's quite embarrassing to have a shut-in neat around the house. Have you planned your move yet? I'll be out of here by today. I can't stand the sight of you, Lenny, anyway. It was clear to anyone that Lenny, my sister-in-law, who ridiculed me with a smirk, was trying to take over our house. However, there was a reason I decided to move out and let her have the house. I had a firm belief that Lenny would not be able to live in this house for long. My name is Teresa. I live with my dad, Mom, and Lenny, my brother's wife. My brother was assigned to work overseas shortly after getting married, and Lenny firmly refused to live abroad. Lenny ended up living in our house, shamelessly so, despite being in the so-called newlywed stage and living separately from my brother. I remember well the day Lenny came to our house. She brought a lot of luggage with her and said without any remorse, "Edwin has gone overseas, so his room is vacant, right? I've decided to live there." My parents and I were baffled when Lenny came to the house without any prior discussion. When we called my brother to ask for an explanation, he was also surprised by Lenny's actions. Though my brother, who had just been assigned overseas, did respond, it was ultimately up to my parents and me, who were in direct contact with Lenny, to have the discussion. After getting married, Lenny was supposed to live in the house where my brother lived alone. However, when we asked why she suddenly came to the house, Lenny said the room was too small. I had been to my brother's room, and it didn't seem too small. But Lenny had already unilaterally terminated the lease of my brother's room. Since her parents lived far away and our house was conveniently located for her to get to work, she insisted on living in the house. Naturally, my parents were angry about Lenny's outrageous behavior, but Lenny was smart. Edwin has gone overseas, and I'm lonely too. Of course, I plan to contribute financially since I'll be living here. I'll also do my best with housework, so please, let me stay in this house. When Lenny pleaded like this, my parents couldn't refuse. I think one of the reasons my parents couldn't strongly reject Lenny was for my brother's sake. My parents didn't seem to mind living with Lenny, which had started suddenly. They were angry about her coming without any discussion, but Lenny was doing housework, as she said, going to work, and paying rent to my parents. However, I was nothing but dissatisfied. For some reason I don't know, Lenny had made me her enemy. "Oh, Teresa, you're as unattractive as ever today." I was utterly surprised when she said that as soon as she saw me when I came out of my room in the morning. I don't think my face is attractive at all, but I was naturally surprised when she suddenly said such a thing. "Teresa, aren't you ashamed to be a shut-in all the time? Edwin is so respectable, going on an overseas assignment, and my in-laws have earned enough to live in such a large house, while you, Teresa, are just a neat, playing at home all the time. I would be too ashamed to stay in such a house if I were you." Today, my parents were at work and Lenny seemed to be off. Is she assuming I won't tell our parents about her nasty words? No need to feel embarrassed. I'm not a neat, I answer, laughing internally at her absurdity. Sure, my job requires me to be at home a lot, but that doesn't make me a neat. But my sincere answer simply triggers a burst of laughter from Lenny. "Oh, come on, Teresa. Your brother's a successful man, and I work for a prestigious company. Even your parents are respected employees. I understand you might feel a bit inferior, but there's no need to lie." "I'm not lying. I'm an influencer." "An influencer? Please, stop making me laugh. As if someone as plain as you could be an influencer. That's a job for gorgeous models." She responds, brushing her elegantly curled hair off her shoulder, ignoring my protests, and shoving past me. As she strides away, a heavy cloud of her perfume lingers in the air. "When will you finally move out, Teresa? It's so embarrassing to have a shut-in neat in the house. Have you found a new place yet?" She suddenly stops mid-stride, turning around with a malicious grin on her face. "I'll give you an allowance, Teresa. You must be in dire need of money, right? It's only fair for all the housework you do." Laughing softly, she pulls a few $10 bills from her wallet and throws them onto the floor. "Well, see you," she says, leaving the house. Her dismissive attitude really gets under my skin. I'm not only frustrated with Lenny, but also disappointed with my brother's lack of discernment. Did they really think I would just stay silent after such a provocation? Perhaps Lenny saw me as a quiet and meek sister-in-law, but I'm not the type of woman to just sit back and take it. I pick up the strewn money, open the door to Lenny's room without her permission, and throw it inside. She sure had a lot of nerve, acting so high and mighty over a few tens of dollars. Luckily for me, I'm not strapped for cash. I had planned to relax today, but now it seems I'll be quite busy. After tidying up and finishing my work for the day, I start packing my things. I can't stand living under the same roof as Lenny any longer. I decide to move in to my boyfriend's house. Nathan, my boyfriend, with whom I've been discussing marriage plans, is understanding and agrees to accommodate me as soon as I explain the situation. Meanwhile, I make a call to a certain place in the morning. From the moment she came to greet us as a prospective wife, Lenny had always looked down on me. She's probably the type of person who needs to assert her dominance over someone to feel alive. By the time I finish my tasks, my parents return home. I don't mention anything about Lenny. Instead, I join my parents for dinner, a meal I had prepared. Lenny, who had claimed to be out with friends, hadn't returned yet. She said she wouldn't be home for dinner, so I guess she'll return late. I chose not to tell my parents about Lenny yet, waiting for the right moment. Lenny was in for a surprise, and I planned to hit her with it at the worst possible moment. "I'm moving in with Nathan starting today. I'll be out of here by tonight." "That's quite sudden." "Nathan's okay with it?" "Yep, he agreed, and we're thinking about getting married soon." "Well, as long as it's fine by him, just make sure to let him know we said hi." I broke the news to my worried parents, finished washing the dishes with my melancholic mom, and then I picked up my packed belongings and headed out of my room. And there, right on cue, stood Lenny. Dolled up in heavy makeup, Lenny's grin stretched across her face like she'd just spotted her prey. "When will you finally leave this house, Teresa? It's so embarrassing to have a shut-in neat like you around. Is your moving day coming soon?" "I'll be gone today. Trust me, I'm as eager to get away from you as you are to see me gone." Lenny's expression twisted in response to my direct reply. She glared at her cheeky sister-in-law. Her ugly face was truly a sight to behold. No offense to my brother, but I could do without a sister-in-law like her. The next time we'd meet, I'd be ready to serve her a dose of revenge. Well, excuse me then. I bid Lenny farewell, said goodbye to my parents who were relaxing in front of the television downstairs, and left the house. Nathan had said to me, "You probably won't need to deal with your sister-in-law again." But I loved my brother. He was a good-natured man being duped by Lenny, and I couldn't just stand by knowing that. Thanks for your concern, but Lenny needs to be completely ousted from our house. A few days after I left home, I got a call from Mom. "You, giving us such a shock by suddenly sending that. Just come home and explain. We've already informed your brother, but he can't make it back right away, so we'll video call him. We've also asked Lenny to take off from work, so hurry back." I responded to Mom's call, which came in late in the afternoon, with an okay, and after texting Nathan that I was heading to my parents' house, I left. The family house that I returned to after several days felt heavy with tension the moment I walked in. As I approached the living room, Lenny's cries became louder. When I opened the door, Lenny was hunched over in front of my parents, seated on the sofa. I could feel her glaring at me. "Teresa, this is terrible. Why would you send these pictures?" Lenny pointed to a series of pictures sprawled across the coffee table. The pictures were of Lenny with various men at different locations, some with arms linked, hands held, images of intimacy. The sender, as Lenny indicated, was, of course, me. Private investigators can be quite useful, I thought. On the morning I left home, I had contacted a private investigator to check if my sister-in-law was cheating, transferred the money, and that was it. From just that, such indisputable evidence was procured. "You're the terrible one. What do you mean by doing whatever you want just because I'm not there?" The one shouting was my brother, connected via video call. His face, displayed on the screen, was beet red from anger. Lenny cried out to my brother, "But I was lonely. You always travel abroad even though we're newlyweds, Edwin. You left me alone. You're the one at fault, Edwin." I could feel the anger radiating from my parents' faces, but I calmly stated, "You're right. The fault lies with my brother." Lenny's expression turned to one of disbelief as she looked at me. I leveled my gaze at her, allowing no warmth to seep through. "The real problem is my brother's lack of judgment in choosing a woman like you." Lenny, taken aback at my words, leaned in toward me, fuming. "What? You've got some nerve, you hideous shut-in, telling me such things. All this chaos, it's your fault." Despite the presence of my parents and brother, Lenny couldn't hold back her true colors. As she realized what she had just blurted out, her hand flew to her mouth. But it was too late. My parents and brother were taken aback, but I just flatly declared, "Lenny is always like this. Lenny thinks of me as an ugly shut-in. She played the nice girl in front of everyone else, but she cheats and she doesn't hesitate to be abusive to anyone she perceives as beneath her. My brother is also at fault for choosing to marry such a person." "I was just stating the truth. After all, Teresa is a shut-in, not an influencer. That's just a lie, right?" The one who sighed at Lenny's brazen defiance was Mom. I had no idea that Lenny was like this. Yes, Teresa spends a lot of time at home, but she's not a shut-in. She's a real influencer. Eh? As Lenny gasped in surprise, I shared the name I use for my influencer activities. I suggested she look it up on her mobile phone, and she hurriedly began her search. Upon seeing the search results, a flustered Lenny looked back and forth between me and her phone. Then, with an expression of disbelief, she pointed at me. Really? Teresa is this person? Yep. Makeup is like magic, isn't it? I'm a beauty influencer. Born with a nondescript face, I use makeup to transform it, creating countless videos of my makeovers and posting them online. I sometimes receive requests from cosmetic companies to advertise their products in my videos. Thankfully, I have a large fan base, and when people think of beauty influencers, my name is often one that comes to mind. This house was built with the money Teresa earned. This huge house? Lenny gasped in response. I guess it's hard to believe that someone like me could have built a house in such a prime location so close to the station. As Lenny stood there, dumbfounded, the doorbell rang. Wondering who could be visiting at such an hour, I, the only one standing, answered it. A familiar voice rang out. Can I come in? Yeah, sure, I responded, and the owner of the voice entered. Seeing Nathan walk in through the living room door, Lenny recoiled. What? Why is Nathan here? Oh, you must be the sister-in-law I've heard about. It's nice to know you recognize me, thank you, Nathan replied, his radiant smile lighting up the room. He's been an actor since his childhood. We had met at a social gathering for content creators and hit it off right away. Nathan and I had been in a relationship for several years, but we kept it a secret. Upon Nathan's appearance, it seemed that Lenny really believed that I was an influencer. Lenny weakly murmured, "No way." From the other side of the screen, my brother told her, "This isn't a time for you to be upset about that." Things quickly spiraled from there. My brother declared to Lenny that he would demand a settlement and file for divorce. He was going to take a break and return to the U.S., and until then, he instructed Lenny to wait. Lenny's parents lived far away, so she had to stay at our house until my brother returned. With our parents looking at Lenny as if she were something disgusting, it was clear that the days until my brother's return would be harsh and painful for her. Once we confirmed that my brother had escaped a woman like Lenny, Nathan and I decided to head home. On the drive back, I asked Nathan, "Why did you come with me?" He replied, "I didn't want my future wife, Teresa, to be mistreated." I found myself smiling at Nathan's kindness. My brother returned to the States 2 weeks later. During that time, Lenny had apparently taken a leave and locked herself in her room. While drafting the divorce papers, she was said to be crying, "I love Edwin the most." But my brother didn't waver at all. After the divorce was finalized, Lenny apparently began living alone. But the men who used to entertain her wouldn't associate with her anymore due to the shock of the divorce and her subsequent weight loss. Unable to receive help from anyone, Lenny repeatedly called my brother, but he blocked her calls. Furthermore, he went abroad again, leaving Lenny with no one to rely on. She quit her job and returned to her parents' home. Ironically, Lenny, who used to mock shut-in neets, had become one herself. Since then, my brother has been careful about his relationships with women, but he met a wonderful woman abroad and married her. The new sister-in-law, a brave woman with beautiful blonde hair, is learning English so that she can communicate with me and our parents. In time, Nathan and I also got married. Our wedding made the news. The marriage of Nathan, who had been beloved since his childhood acting days, was celebrated, and I was accepted by the public as Nathan's wife. Now that everything is resolved and peaceful, my family and I are living happily.
If you can't even clean properly, maybe you should just have an abortion. I mean, it doesn't bother me either way. How could you say such a thing? Unforgivable. Just too far. My name is Alicia. I'm in my late 30s and I'm a company worker. I've been married to my husband Kevin for 5 years now. We don't have any kids yet. When we were getting married, Kevin said, "We're not getting any younger and we both want kids, so I'd like you to stay at home and quit your job." But I just couldn't give up my current job, so we've both been working. Now Kevin understands how I feel, and we're living harmoniously, sharing household chores. Even the notion of moving in with my in-laws was brought up once. My mother-in-law used to be a teacher. She said that when Kevin and I have a child, she'll help so I can continue working while raising the child. Her parents helped her when she was raising her children while working, and she wanted to pass on the support. For now, we're leaving things at, we'll think about it once we're blessed with a child. Kevin is quite dominant and expects me to follow a step behind him, especially around his family. Despite that, he is inherently kind, and we maintained an equal relationship at home. Lately, my health has been less than stellar. My stomach has been upset, I've been suffering from dizzy spells, and I'm irritable. At the end of my workday, I'm exhausted, and I can barely manage the household chores. Kevin has been very concerned, despite being tired from his own work. He helps with my share of chores, asks me what I feel like eating, and even goes out of his way to buy it. However, my health kept deteriorating, so he said, "You should see a doctor. If it's too much to go alone, I'll accompany you. I'm worried, please." He accompanied me to the doctor, and it turned out that I was pregnant. The cause of my poor health was morning sickness. Both Kevin and I were overjoyed at our long-awaited pregnancy. We thought this morning sickness would surely calm down soon. However, even after a month, 2 months, my morning sickness did not subside. I learned that the severity and duration of morning sickness vary greatly among individuals, and some people even suffer from it until they give birth. My health worsened day by day. I managed to go to work, but I could no longer do any housework after returning home. Seeing this, Kevin began to grow cold towards me. "Why isn't your morning sickness over yet? It's not an illness, is it? Are you pretending to suffer so you could slack off from housework?" "I don't know why either. Why would you say such terrible things? That's harsh." "My mother said she never had morning sickness. My colleagues at work said it was over quickly and they were doing housework. Alicia, you're just being lazy. If you toughen up, you won't feel morning sickness, right? You're lacking determination." I wanted to argue back at Kevin, who compared me with his mother and others, accusing me of slacking off, but I didn't have the energy to do so at the time. I was coming home from work, barely managing the household chores, while feeling dizzy and sometimes vomiting in the toilet. Kevin would finish his share of the chores, then he'd lie on the sofa, watching TV and laughing while I was desperately trying to do the housework. Even when I asked for a little help, he would say, "At least take responsibility for your own work. Morning sickness isn't an illness. If you pull yourself together, you can handle it. It's only hard because you think it is. If you're like this with morning sickness, how will you manage childcare?" And wouldn't help me. After a while, Kevin fell asleep on the sofa and his smartphone slipped from his hand. The screen showed a message asking, "Has Alicia's slacking off habit been cured?" I was furious. Using Kevin's finger while he was sleeping, I unlocked the fingerprinted protected phone and I found numerous emails from my mother-in-law in the mailbox. "Has Alicia's slacking off habit been cured? She's just using morning sickness as an excuse to slack off. She's planning to slack off in her work and housework. You have to hit her hard." "I see. I'll tell her. I've never had morning sickness at all. As long as you're careful, you'll be fine." "I see. I'll tell Alicia too." Morning sickness is nothing compared to childcare, which is 100 times harder. I'm worried about what will happen after the baby is born if she's like this now. That's troublesome. They also talked about how I was too old and questioned whether a healthy child could be born. They even suggested Kevin should remarry a younger woman who would not suffer from morning sickness and would bear a healthy child. "You don't have such a partner in mind, do you?" "Oh, if you feel like it, I'll introduce her to you, okay? Her name is Mona. She's my student and she's 25 now. She admired me and became a teacher. She's so cute. It's fulfilling and it doesn't have to be a burden on you, Kevin. If it's Mona, I think she'll definitely do it if I ask her to live with me. I wouldn't mind if you introduced me to her." They even made plans for a meal with Mona, one of my mother-in-law's former students. Regularly, they were bad-mouthing me. I managed to take a picture of all the emails and save them when I had a chance to check Kevin's phone. I was stunned for a while and couldn't comprehend what I had seen, but I felt I understood why my husband had grown colder towards me. That day, I couldn't get out of the toilet from morning till evening. My morning sickness showed no signs of calming down, and my throat was sore from all the vomiting. I worried whether the baby in my belly was alright given my condition. Recently, I've barely been able to eat solid food and have just been managing to stay hydrated. Feeling my limit, I was about to call Kevin from the bathroom for help when he showed up at the bathroom door by chance. "I'm really suffering today. Please take me to the hospital. Maybe an IV drip will make me feel better." "Why are you fussing over a little morning sickness? It's already enough. I have plans today. Please don't bother me." I remembered today he had plans to dine with my mother-in-law and Mona. I wanted to tail them, but that seemed out of the question now. I plan to go out in the evening, but seeing you, Alicia, depresses me. I'm leaving now. I can't even relax in my own house. Just keep slacking off alone, alright? Why are you always so cruel? The child inside me is ours, Kevin. Can't you cooperate or help a little? If morning sickness prevents you from even cleaning properly, maybe you should just get rid of the child. I don't really care either way. You're choosing to have this baby, Alicia, right? Then stop complaining and handle your business. Just don't burden me, okay? As I heard his words, my consciousness began to drift away. I couldn't muster any strength. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. My parents looked at me worriedly. What had happened? Apparently, when I was trying to call Kevin from the bathroom using my phone, I accidentally dialed home. My father answered the phone and overheard Kevin's harsh words. My parents rushed to our place immediately and found me collapsed alone in the bathroom. Kevin had left me unconscious and gone out. My parents quickly called an ambulance and I was taken to the hospital. Fortunately, both I and the baby were okay, but I was advised to stay in the hospital for a night just to be sure. My parents tried to reach Kevin, but he was unresponsive. He had read the messages but didn't reply. He didn't show up at the hospital that day. I told my parents everything, sobbing. I showed them all the photos from Kevin's phone. My father, deep in thought, said, "We need to talk with Kevin and his parents." The next morning, when I was about to be discharged, Kevin finally showed up in my hospital room. Kevin, grinning, said, "Seriously? What are you being hospitalized for? You just stayed one night, right? See, I told you your morning sickness isn't a big deal. Let's go home now." Kevin, wait a moment. The doctor told me something earlier. I got a medical certificate that recommends rest due to my condition. I've already contacted my workplace to take leave starting tomorrow. Oh wow, so you're slacking off from work now too? Must be nice. This morning sickness thing. Well, it makes sense. You would be a burden to everyone at work in this condition. So if you're going to be home from tomorrow, I don't need to do the chores, right? It's only fair since you're going to be home, slacking off. Kevin, have you been talking to your dad recently? Does he know about Alicia's condition? Well, no, I haven't talked to my dad recently. I do keep in touch with my mom, and I've told her about the situation, so I think she has informed my dad. Considering Alicia's situation and your current attitude, Kevin, I cannot allow her to return home. We will take Alicia in for a while. What? Don't spoil Alicia, please. Well, we are sorry, but regarding this matter, we need to apologize to your parents. We would like to visit when your father is present. Also, what happened last night? We tried contacting you multiple times. Or perhaps you were too busy with work? I wonder if Kevin noticed that my mom's eyes were not smiling even though she was. He made a tense face and said, "Okay, I understand. I'll make arrangements. Last night I was working. I've been busy recently. Excuse me." And he left the room. Then the doctor came for the final check before discharging me. After finishing the examination, the doctor explained how I should take care of myself from tomorrow onwards. He then addressed Kevin. "You're Alicia's husband, right? Alicia is going through a tough time right now, so please take care of her. Try to do the chores so that she can rest her body." To which Kevin replied, "Doctor, what are you talking about? It's just morning sickness." Well, I understand from your position you have to say that to avoid complaints, right? Don't worry, I'll make sure Alicia does what she needs to do. When we have a family meeting, my parents will surely reprimand her too. Now, if you'll excuse me. And he left. The doctor, puzzled, offered, "He seems to misunderstand something. Should I explain it to him more thoroughly?" My mother responded with a smile. "No, it's all right. We'll handle this on our end. I'm sorry for the unpleasant scene you had to witness." My parents seemed lost in quiet contemplation. A month passed and my health finally began to stabilize. The time had come to go to Kevin's family home and resolve things once and for all. That said, I hadn't been in touch with Kevin much in the months since I had returned home, and I had no idea how far things had progressed with Mona. I had no clue where the discussion would lead. I'm sorry for the inconvenience caused by my extended stay at my parents' home due to morning sickness. It's not a bother at all. Are you feeling better now? Be careful not to push yourself too hard. While my father-in-law expressed concern for my health, Kevin and my mother-in-law gave me condescending smirks. Thank you. In fact, Kevin mentioned that Alicia's morning sickness was an act of indulgence, which is distressing for us as her parents. Morning sickness as an indulgence? Kevin, did you say that? Well, isn't that right, Mom? No, it just seems to be lasting too long. You're better now, aren't you, Alicia? That's good. My mother-in-law hastily tried to end the conversation. No, we need to clarify this, mother-in-law. You are worried that Alicia, being older, might not be able to give birth to a healthy child. You plan to arrange a remarriage between your young former student and Kevin? How far have the discussions with this young Miss Mona, was it, progressed?
What is this all about? Has my wife really said such a disrespectful thing? No, it's not like that. It was a joke, a joke.
A joke? Mom, what do you mean? We've already had a meal with Mona, and I really like her. After this, we will divorce Alicia for failing to do housework and claim alimony. Then I will marry Mona, right?
At Kevin's words, everyone fell silent. An uneasy silence filled the air. My mother-in-law turned pale, and my father-in-law was red in the face. It seems there has been some outrageous discussions happening without my knowledge. For today, please go home. I will have a proper conversation with these two. I apologize for this situation. Once again, I ended up returning to my parents' house. I felt like I might never return to that house again. A few days later, I learned a surprising fact from my father. Kevin had received disciplinary action from his company. The reason was maternity harassment. He had committed maternity harassment against a woman in his department.
It's evidence that you're slacking off if you get sick just because you're pregnant. Work is not your place to relax. If you don't want to work, then go home.
He would assign heavy lifting tasks to visibly pregnant women.
Can't you even do this? You're just a burden on the company. You should just quit already. You're a nuisance to everyone.
Apparently, it was awful. There were several victims, and they seemed to have reported him to the company's compliance department. My father, who has connections with Kevin's company, apparently got the information.
Kevin said, "But Mom taught me that. I just said what Mom said. What's wrong with that?"
I think the same way in my heart, but in public I pretend to be kind to pregnant women and worry about them if they're not feeling well. Don't you understand that? Then you knew that even if you thought so, you shouldn't say it out loud to Alicia, right? Why did you say such a thing to Kevin? Why did you do something that would lead to their divorce? Kevin seemed to understand nothing, so I thought I could guide him to divorce. I thought Mona, being young, would listen to me. She admires me after all, and I'm sure she'll agree to live with us. Alicia is just too headstrong, and I don't prefer. It seemed my mother-in-law had arranged everything behind the scenes. My father-in-law didn't know anything, and Kevin was just a pawn in her game. Afterwards, I was incessantly contacted by Kevin.
"I was deceived by Mom. I was just misunderstood. I didn't know anything. Please forgive me. I will treasure you and our baby from now on."
Oh, just the other day you were telling me to get rid of this baby, weren't you? It's too late to start caring now. We're getting a divorce. Please live happily with Mona. We had this back and forth many times. Kevin's words, "just get rid of it," that I had heard while I was fainting deeply wounded my heart. It was something I simply couldn't forgive. On the other hand, I learned that Mona was not aware of Kevin's marital status and had only agreed to have dinner with him because my mother-in-law suggested it, assuring her it would avoid complications at work. Apparently, she didn't become a teacher because she admired my mother-in-law, nor did she hold any particular affection for her. When she found out about my mother-in-law's manipulations, she was genuinely shocked and looked down on her. She had just been unwittingly dragged into all of this. I was worried that getting a divorce would be difficult, but my father-in-law stepped in. He scolded and persuaded both Kevin and my mother-in-law, and we were able to finalize the divorce. I deeply regret that Kevin hurt you in such a difficult time of pregnancy. As a father, I feel extremely guilty. I am also sorry for my wife's actions and for not having monitored her properly, which caused a great deal of discomfort. He apologized from his heart. He paid for Kevin's alimony and child support in a lump sum, and apparently planned to make Kevin repay him in installments. I was able to smoothly finalize the divorce thanks to you, father-in-law. Please come visit us when the baby is born. I'd love to, but hold off for now. I need to straighten out Kevin and my wife and keep a close watch on them. Besides, if they found out I was secretly meeting you, they might go off the rails again. I don't want to expose you or my grandchild to any more danger. Kevin resigned from his job, which he had been disciplined at. He said it was too hard to stay at the company. He tried to find another job, but seemed to be having a hard time sticking to one. He's living with his mother under his father's watchful eye, and it seems he's having a rough time. Rumors about Mona's situation spread in my mother-in-law's workplace, and it seems everyone is giving her strange looks. The teaching world is a rapid turnover of school reassignments every 3 to 8 years, which apparently makes it easier for rumors to spread. Even without this rumor, my mother-in-law was already a dubious person, so people around her were likely thinking she might do something like this. I wonder if she was shocked to find out that Mona, whom she thought admired her, actually disliked her. Lately, she seems to have become very quiet at work. After safely giving birth to a girl, as expected, Kevin pleaded, "Please let me see my daughter. I have a right since I'm paying child support." I responded formally. Child support payments and visitation rights are separate legal obligations and not exchangeable. We decided during the divorce that you would pay child support and we would not have visitation. Therefore, I decline your request for a visit. After that, he stopped contacting me. However, sometimes I wonder if it was right to deprive my child of her father based on my feelings. After all, it was my mother-in-law who was the real mastermind, and Kevin was merely brainwashed. When I confessed this story to my mother, she said, "Indeed, Kevin is a kind person, but I wonder, who is he the kindest to? If he's kindest to you and his daughter, it might be okay to let him see her. What do you think? Indeed, Kevin is kind, but he's the kindest to himself. Or rather, he's only kind to himself. That's why when I was sick and became a burden to his life, he was filled with negative feelings towards me and ended up going along with my mother-in-law's plan. I can't trust a person who pushed me away when I was weak and needed help. I might ask my daughter if she wants to meet him when she's old enough to have her own opinions, but until then, I don't plan to let her see him." My world completely changed after my daughter was born. Parenting is really fun, but it's also very challenging. I plan to take maternity leave for a while to focus on parenting, and then return to work after leaving my daughter at daycare. I decided to live at my parents' house during my maternity leave. I'm considering finding an apartment near my parents' house where I can live with my daughter soon. Since then, I secretly contacted my father-in-law and asked him to visit us once without informing Kevin. Seeing him carefully and tenderly lift my daughter in his arms, I couldn't help but wish he could visit more often. He didn't take any photos of my daughter. He said if he took any, he might keep looking at them at home and then his wife and Kevin would find out. Instead, I took a lot of pictures of him and my daughter together. I plan to make an album and present it to him one day. I'm incredibly fortunate. I have the support of my parents and a job to return to. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if my morning sickness had been lighter and I had continued to live with Kevin. Would he have cooperated with me when childcare became difficult, thinking of our daughter and working together to overcome challenges? Would he have risked his own life to protect our daughter when danger loomed? When I think about this, I feel glad that my severe morning sickness exposed Kevin's true character early on. Maybe it was my daughter who made me aware of this. From now on, I plan to appreciate the kindness of those around me and move forward with my daughter, looking ahead.
Stop acting all high and mighty just because you've made some pocket change. Is that it? You think you're better than me just because you've made some money? Is your ego that big even when you have a husband like me? I never said that. Well, it sounds like you did. You're messing up my space without even realizing it. Get a clue. Why do I have to put up with this? I've never thought about one-upping you or acting like I'm better. What's your problem? If you have so many complaints, then go ahead and divorce me. Bet you can't. You can't do anything on your own, can you? Fine. I'll happily divorce you. What? That was the moment I decided to divorce him. My husband looked stunned, as if he never expected me to make that decision. This is not a bluff. I genuinely intend to divorce him. 3 years ago, my mother-in-law, Sophia, passed away. Sophia was kind to me from the time my husband and I attended family meetings. I remember her always calling out to me, "Ava, Ava," showing concern and taking care of me. We had a good relationship until she got sick and passed away. When Sophia died, I was devastated. She was such a bright spirit. It's hard to find someone like her. I was extremely sad, but my father-in-law, Ethan, seemed unfazed. Ethan has been wheelchair-bound due to a work injury. While Sophia was alive, she would take care of Ethan every day, enduring his complaints. He would constantly gripe, even though Sophia took care of him. Watching them, I often felt angry at Ethan. How could he be so arrogant when he can't even do anything on his own? But Sophia never lost her temper and humbly obeyed Ethan's rants. One day, I asked Sophia, "Why don't you ever get mad, Sophia? If it were me, I'd tell him to stop complaining, since I'm the one helping him. But you're always smiling, even when Ethan nags you." I was really curious about that. Looking back, it might have been an inappropriate question, but I couldn't help wondering. Sophia answered my question with a smile. "Long ago, Ethan, his mother, and I used to live together. His mom had a unique personality. If Ethan tried to help me, she'd say, a man shouldn't be doing that. So Ethan got used to not doing anything, and has been like that ever since. And you don't get mad? If yelling solved problems, life would be so much easier for me too. The talking doesn't do much. So I've given up on that. We're the type of couple that, well, I wouldn't call it love, maybe companionship. We're not looking to divorce, and we're both doing our own things. So maybe this is what works for us. But it can get lonely, you know? If our son ever says something weird, come to me. I'll be there in a heartbeat. Thank you, I said, just before Sophia passed away. After that, it was natural for Ethan to move in with us. I remember feeling nervous about the whole situation. Up to that point, it was Sophia who took care of Ethan. I never thought I could fill her shoes. Feeling anxious, the move-in day approached. I did consult my husband about my worries. I shared my true feelings, saying I was uneasy about doing what Sophia used to do. But, as expected, my husband just shrugged it off. You'll get over your worries. Dad living with us won't change much. My husband was far from empathetic and didn't understand what this cohabitation meant at all. So, without any support from him, the cohabitation started. Ethan, please make yourself at home. Don't hesitate to speak up, I said, offering the warmest smile I could muster. Ethan didn't react. His face was like a stone wall. At that moment, I thought living together was impossible. But recalling what Sophia had done, I resolved to make it work. During one dinner, I served mostly meat dishes because I didn't know Ethan's preferences, but he complained. Is meat all you can cook? What? Didn't it suit your taste? I asked. It's not that. I'm just tired of all this meat. My wife cooked way better meals. How can you be so bad at this? I'm sorry. By the way, what do you like or dislike, Ethan? I don't have any particular likes. If I had to say steak and alcohol, I hate pizza. Got it? I'm only saying this once. The first time he genuinely spoke to me, and this is what he had to say. I was stunned and couldn't respond. It was only a week into his living with us. I thought it was impossible, but then considered maybe all I needed to do was diversify the meals. But Ethan found reasons to complain about everything, like his personal items and laundry. I used to do the laundry and leave it folded in Ethan's room, but one day he claimed his socks were missing. It was strange because they were there just the other day and somehow I got blamed for it. Of course, I denied it. Once I drop off the laundry, I don't touch it again. Still, Ethan gave me a suspicious look, so we searched his room together and found the socks wedged between other clothes. He claimed it happened because I fold laundry weirdly. That was the last straw for me, so I let out all the frustrations I had been holding back. Ethan, did you ever consider you move them yourself? If so, the problem is with you, not how I fold the laundry. What? How dare you speak to me like that? Apologize right now. Unacceptable. Now I understood why Sophia gave up on Ethan. He is unyielding and won't change his ways for anyone. I can't imagine anyone getting along with this Ethan. I thought I was alone in this, but there was someone close who understood my side of the story. It was my husband. The two of them get along great and often share drinks. That would be fine, but together, they look down on me. I've thought about ending it all, even divorcing, countless times. One time, I reached my breaking point when I was treated like a servant. Ethan, do you really dislike me that much? Dislike? Well, if you don't do as I say, then yeah, I do. In that case, why don't you live alone? That way, you won't have to be mad at anyone. I'm in a wheelchair. How could I possibly live alone? Are you out of your mind? We continued arguing, neither of us willing to compromise. Then he said living in a facility would be more peaceful. Hearing this, I decided my goal was to send Ethan to a care facility. That would free me from him. My husband was there and promised that if I could save up the money, Ethan would move into a facility. Despite saying I couldn't do it, Ethan insisted it had to be a high-end retirement home. That would cost roughly $70,000. Normally, I'd think it was impossible. But my goal was to get rid of Ethan, so I was determined to save up $70,000. From then on, my life completely changed. Part-time work wouldn't make much difference, and I didn't want to appear desperate, so I chose to work remotely. It might sound cliche, but I used to work as a designer before getting married. And a friend had contacted me a few months back asking for help on a project which I had put on hold. I decided to take the job because the time coincided with us all moving in together. The pay was really good. I started saving up money this way. It took me about a year and a half. I think I did it pretty quickly, but that's because I was extremely frugal. I took my banking card and went to talk to my husband and Ethan, who were having a friendly chat. When I joined their cheerful atmosphere, both of them glared at me. Can I talk to you guys for a second? What's up? Is it so important that you need to interrupt our conversation? It can't be that big of a deal, right?
Since they didn't seem to want to listen to me, I showed them the banking card. Do you remember the talk about the facility a year and a half ago?
The facility? What are you talking about?
Oh, you mean the talk about whether Dad should go into a care facility?
Yeah, that one. It was a $70,000 facility, remember? What about it?
I've saved up the money. Take a look at this banking card.
Huh?
Ethan looked puzzled as he took the banking card. When he flipped to the page showing the current balance, his eyes widened in astonishment.
What? No way! How did you get this much money?
Wait, what's going on, Dad? Are you serious? Where did you get all this money?
Of course, I earned it. You've seen me working on the computer at home, haven't you? My husband and Ethan were at a loss for words. Finally! Now I can live separately from Ethan. I felt bad for Sophia in heaven, but I had to do this, or else I'd go crazy. Then Ethan, who had been looking at the banking card, threw it.
Don't act so high and mighty just because you saved up some change. I'm not going into any facility with this.
Why? You said you'd go if it was a $70,000 facility. The price has changed a bit, but it's still enough. Then my husband spoke.
It's my father we're talking about. It was crazy to even think about putting him in a facility.
Then why didn't you say that back then? You both agreed he should only go to a high-end facility. That's why I saved up.
Shut up. Just divorce me then.
What?
I said it before. If you don't like the way I do things, you should leave.
Are you serious?
Yeah. If you have complaints, try divorcing me. Well, that's true. After all, a woman can't survive without her husband.
My husband and Ethan laughed at me. I finally made up my mind. I'm fine with divorce. Fine. I'll happily divorce you.
What? Are you serious?
Absolutely. I'll start the paperwork later. From tomorrow, I'll start moving my stuff.
Hey, if you're joking, stop it. Think about what you're doing. You can't make it on your own.
Why not? I managed to save up $70,000 in a year and a half. What exactly can't I do on my own?
Well,
I used to let my husband take the lead when it came to money, but now I'm the one who's significantly ahead. Far from being dependent,
I'm the one who can support us now. So I'll leave you to think about this. Come up with an answer, okay? Bye for now. With that, I left our home and went back to my parents' house. I had already filled them in on the situation. I told them about the frequent argument with Ethan and how moving his dad into a care facility might change things. But it turns out that not only did things not improve, but Ethan also refused to put his dad in a facility. I couldn't spend any more of my time on those two. A week later, my husband reached out asking to come over and talk. I thought it was a good chance to see what he had been contemplating over the past week, so I returned home for a brief visit. As soon as I walked in, I noticed something was off. The faint smell of garbage wafted from the entrance, and laundry was scattered everywhere. Dirty dishes still filled the kitchen. It wasn't the same home I left a week ago. I figured, this is what happens when two people who don't do chores live together. We decided to talk in the bedroom, which was still clean, and right away, my husband pleaded for me to come back.
In this past week, both Dad and I have realized how much you've been doing for us. We're really sorry.
Then Ethan rolled in on his wheelchair.
Look, I guess I've been in the wrong too. How about we both make some changes and live together again?
To be frank, I had no expectations for Ethan's apology, if that's what he's considering this to be. He's going to improve, so I should too. If that's his idea of an apology, then I don't understand it. I decided to keep my distance. I know why they're asking for a do-over. They probably want me back because there's nobody to take care of them now that their housewife is gone. If I return, I know I'll be treated the same way. So I won't go back. I get what both of you are saying, but sorry. I'm not coming back.
Why? We're apologizing. Isn't that enough? Seriously, we're even bowing our heads here. What more do you want? Oh, Dad, don't say that.
See, that's the attitude I'm talking about. Ethan, is this your idea of an apology? It's the same as always, so I assumed you didn't reflect on anything.
What?
So you just want me to take care of the house because you can't, right? You can't handle Ethan, so you'd rather leave it all to me and go off doing whatever you want? You even considered putting him in a facility and you dare say, he's my dad, you know? Maybe you should refrain from making such reckless statements without understanding the reality. Ugh. Having said my piece, I handed the divorce papers to my husband.
Whoa, are you serious about this?
I've told you, yes. I'm serious. You were the one who said, if you have complaints, then let's get divorced, right? Well, I have a lot of complaints about you too, so I've decided to get a divorce. Do you understand now? Unable to take back his words, my husband was silenced. Don't ever think that being the breadwinner puts you in a position of power. It's true, housewives do depend on their husband's earnings, but at the same time, you're able to work because the housewife takes care of every aspect of your life. If you don't get that, maybe you two would be better off single. Poor Sophia up in heaven must be feeling sorry for you. Bye now, you two incompetents. And so, the issue came to a close. Later on, my husband apparently decided he had to act and started making arrangements for Ethan to enter a facility. Ethan strongly opposed the decision, leading to a big fight between him and his dad. Their relationship, once close, rapidly deteriorated, and now my husband is reluctantly completing the paperwork for the facility. Since then, work has been going well for me. If things continue like this, I'll probably be aiming for a higher income. Right now, I'm enjoying my work, but I do hope to build a warm family someday. However, for now, I just want to enjoy being on my own.
This makes me feel lighter.
Dad certainly said that, even though it was during the funeral of Mom, who committed suicide after being betrayed by Dad. The cold reality is that Mom left us without ever revealing the truth. Where's Mom? Brian, who was 5 at the time, asked, gripping my hand tightly. The portrait of Mom shows her smiling warmly, but I know how much she suffered because of Dad. I'll never forgive him. To let go of Mom's regrets, I, at 10 years old, clenched my teeth and took a stand. Fast forward 10 years. I've slowly cornered them into a living hell. I'm Mia, a 20-year-old nurse. I live with my grandparents and 15-year-old Brian. We're a family of 4. When I was 10, Mom passed away and Dad quickly remarried, abandoning us. The remarriage happened so fast. It was as if it had been planned while Mom was still alive. Thankfully, my maternal grandparents took Brian and me in, showering us with love and care. Even as a child, I felt grateful and guilty seeing my elderly grandparents work hard for their adorable grandchildren, and I wanted to start working to ease their burden. Maybe that's why people always said I acted mature for my age. I have a painful past, and I can't forget, and nightmares that still haunt me. Back when I was 10, my parents fought almost every night, filling me with anxiety about what would happen to our family. One day, I woke up to the sound of their arguing. Peeking through a slightly open door, I saw Mom tearfully pleading with Dad. Going to see her again, aren't you? You have 2 kids, you know. Please, think about the children.
Enough. I'm tired of your ugly face.
That's cruel.
I don't even want the kids. I'm leaving you for Nancy.
Just get out. Mom, despite the harsh words, glared at Dad and retorted, If that's how you feel, fine. But you'll pay alimony and child support. And I'll take this house as part of the property division.
What?
Hearing this, Dad raised his arm to hit Mom, and I couldn't help but scream, Stop! Dad looked at me, surprised. His eyes were wide open, bloodshot and terrifying. Gathering my courage, I stood in front of Mom, arms spread to protect her. I hate you, Dad! With a click of his tongue, Dad slammed the front door shut and left. Brian, startled by the yelling, had woken up and was crying. Mom hugged Brian and me, breaking down in tears, but whispering in my ear, As long as I have you two, that's all I need. I'll keep fighting, even if we divorce. But 3 days later, Mom was gone. She committed suicide by jumping from her 5th-floor condo in the middle of the night. I woke up to the sound of the loud sirens of ambulances and police cars, and my mom, who was supposed to be sleeping next to me, was gone. So I had a bad feeling. Mom's handwritten note on the table said, I can't leave. That's why it was determined that she committed suicide. On the day of the funeral, I stroked Mom's beautifully made-up cheek as she lay in the coffin. But there was no way she would wake up, and I couldn't stop the tears from rolling down her cheek. Mia, why won't Mom wake up? I took little Brian's hand and left him in the care of our grandparent, who was crying loudly. As I walked over to sit next to Dad, I heard an incredulous murmur.
This makes me feel lighter.
Dad did indeed say that, even though it was during the funeral of Mom, who committed suicide after being betrayed by Dad. Why would he say something like that at a time like this? The photo of Mom on the memorial table shows her warm smile, but the person who pushed her to the edge was Dad. I couldn't believe that Mom, who was supposed to be strong for Brian and me, left us by taking her own life. Maybe it was my fault for saying I hated Dad. Maybe I should have helped Mom more. Even though I was young and struggling, Dad had this smug grin on his face. Something's not right. There must be some hidden truth to all of this. That's what I felt, even at the age of 10. 2 months after Mom passed away, Dad introduced us to a young woman.
Meet your new mom. Her name is Nancy. Be nice.
The woman stared at Brian and me with cold eyes. Mom just passed away and now this? Was this the plan all along? I remember Mom saying during a fight with Dad, "You're going to see her, aren't you?" This woman must be that Nancy. I looked at Nancy, bewildered. Living with her is going to be a nightmare. Even those thoughts, I put on my best fake smile and greeted her innocently.
I'm glad to have a kind-looking Nancy as our new mom.
But you won't be living with us. You two are going to Grandpa's house.
At that moment, Dad chose his affair partner Nancy and easily abandoned Brian and me. Still, I pretended to feel nothing and responded to Dad.
Is it because Grandpa and Granny look so sad? I understand, but I'll miss not seeing you, Dad.
When I said something I didn't mean, both Dad and Nancy smirked. Enjoy your laughter while you can. With that silent scream in my heart, I kept my mouth shut. Mom must have committed suicide because of Nancy's appearance. I won't let this go, Mom. Watch me. At 10 years old, I decided to take action to help my mom find peace. But back then, I was just a kid in elementary school. I racked my brain, wondering what a child could do. What I should do. First off, while packing to move to my grandparents' house, I also searched through Mom's belongings and Dad's study. I had a feeling that Mom's stuff might get thrown out now that there was a new woman in Dad's life. I found something astonishing, but I didn't know what to do with it at that time, so I quietly tucked it into my bag. And so, we started living with our grandparents. Raising two growing kids must have been tough for them at their age. Grandpa took a job as a security guard, and Granny started working part-time at a supermarket checkout. I did my best to help with chores and take care of my brother Brian, but I was limited in what I could do because of school. Seeing my grandparents struggle financially, I remembered Mom saying she would get alimony and child support from Dad when they're fighting before she passed away. If we had that money, it would make life a bit easier for my grandparents.
Hey, Granny, is he paying child support?
What? Kids shouldn't worry about such things.
Granny tried to be vague, not wanting to burden me. But when I pressed her, I found out Dad hadn't given us anything. The grandparents thought they had caused Dad trouble by Mom's suicide, so they didn't charge him anything. Even so, dumping his kids and pretending not to know is just awful.
That's unforgivable.
I broke open my piggy bank, gathered the coins, and took Brian's hand to board a bus to Dad's office. Once we arrived, we sat down in front of the entrance and started crying. Brian was genuinely scared and crying, but I was faking it. People who looked like Dad's co-workers gathered around and asked,
"What's wrong? We came to see Dad. We don't have money, so we don't even have food."
The crowd looked shocked, but the most shocked was Dad.
Why are you two here?
After scrutinizing us, he heard from his co-workers what I had said and started sweating profusely.
Fine. I'll give you money now. Go home.
Hey, Dad, what's child support? Is it just $10?
Dad, who tried to send us away with just a $10 bill, was met with cold stares from the crowd.
No, it's $500. I just forgot to pay Grandpa.
So it's $500 for both of us? That's too little.
Whispers like raising two kids and $500 these days started circulating.
It's $1,000 for both of you. I'll send it now. Go home.
Thanks, Dad. If you forget the child support again, we'll come to your office.
From then on, Grandpa received child support every month. Dad, however, became the subject of cold stares at work for abandoning his kids and remarrying a younger woman, and eventually quit his job. He found another job, but it paid less than the previous one. Every time he fell behind on child support, I'd show up at his office, forcing him to change jobs multiple times, each time with a lower salary. The bad rumors about Dad didn't stop at the office. I also took Brian to the homes of Dad's friends and relatives and pretended to cry, saying,
We miss Dad. He never visits.
Thus, their reputations worsened, and both Dad and his new wife Nancy became socially isolated. But I wasn't done. I frequently took Brian to visit Dad and Nancy's house for a specific reason.
What are you two doing here?
We miss Dad.
Brian hugged Dad, who looked genuinely happy, and let us in. Nancy glared at us, but I pretended not to notice and kept smiling. As soon as I entered the living room, I looked around and acted excited.
Mom used to always be here when we were kids. We were all so close. Ah, the cup Nancy is holding. That was Mom's favorite.
Nancy put the cup down with a disgusted look and never used it again. We started bringing gifts for Father's Day, birthdays, and Valentine's Day. As we visited Dad regularly, the tension between him and Nancy escalated, and we could sometimes hear them arguing. That was my goal. Once Nancy shoved me so hard, I scraped my knee. I exaggeratedly cried out,
Dad, help!
which led to another big fight. Time passed, and I turned 18 and graduated high school. I had received the child support Mom mentioned, but the $20,000 in alimony from the divorce was still pending. So I decided to make sure Dad kept his promise to Mom by getting that money in another way.
Thanks to Dad, I graduated high school. Here's a thank you gift.
Congrats on graduating. What's this?
It's a picture frame with a photo of Dad and me smiling. The photo was taken by Brian just the other day.
I'm touched. I'll put it right here.
With that, Dad placed the photo frame next to the living room TV.
Actually, Dad, I have a favor to ask.
I told him that I wanted to go to nursing school after high school and needed $20,000 for it.
I want to become a nurse. I think it would be helpful when it's time to take care of our family.
I was thinking of our grandparents, but Dad seemed to assume I'd be taking care of him in his old age. He transferred $20,000 from his savings to my bank card, and I was able to cover my tuition and become a nurse 2 years later. I later found out that divorce settlements and tuition are treated differently, but at the time, I was just happy Dad paid. Now, I'm 20 years old, and it's been 10 years since Mom passed away. Brian and I visited Mom's grave and paid our respects.
Mom, it's been a long wait.
But the day to let go of your regrets has finally come. Watch over us. Brian, standing next to me, nodded in agreement. He's grown so much, even surpassing my height. He's become strong and athletic. Actually, I've confided everything to Brian, and he's agreed to help me with what I'm about to do. We arrive at Dad's house, where we've spent many years. Dad greeted us warmly, but we were emotionless. Dad chatted away even though we hadn't asked him anything.
Actually, I divorced Nancy after all the fights. But I have you guys. Let's live together in this house again.
Did Dad really think we'd be happy about this? But I knew about Dad's divorce because I orchestrated it. I've been waiting for this moment.
Who are you?
Mia, what are you talking about?
You took away our precious Mom's life. I've never considered you my dad. For the past 10 years, I've been patient, just to let go of Mom's regrets.
Dad never expected this attitude from me. His face turned pale and his lips trembled.
Your mom committed suicide. Are you trying to say it's my fault? I think there was also a suicide note that said I can't leave.
Huh, this is part of that letter?
I pulled out a letter that I had found in Dad's study when I was a kid and had kept tucked away ever since. This was a letter Mom wrote to Dad during a time they were fighting over an affair.
I get that your feelings have shifted to Nancy. If you agree to pay the $20,000 settlement and $1,000 monthly child support in the divorce, then let's divorce. Please, let me and Brian live with me if I don't have those kids. This letter is torn off here and missing. The next part probably said, I can't go on living, didn't it?
When did you? I couldn't find it no matter how much I looked after it went missing. Did Mia hide it?
There's no way Mom would leave us and commit suicide. I've always thought that. At that time, I was convinced when I saw this. It was your doing after all.
When I presented him the evidence, Dad, who was at a loss for words, suddenly burst out into a disgusting smile.
Even if the will was a fake? Isn't it true that Mom committed suicide?
Still trying to deceive us? I know what you did, Dad.
What? That I killed Mom? There's no evidence anywhere, right?
That's what proved it.
I pointed to a picture frame next to the TV. It had a hidden camera that sent data to my mobile phone. I took out my phone and played a video. It showed Dad and Nancy in a heated argument before they broke up. In their conversation, they exposed everything.
I pushed my wife off the condo to be with you.
And
I even helped by grabbing her leg.
Nancy also furiously accused Dad.
You liar! You said we wouldn't have to pay any settlement or child support if she was gone.
Mia, what are you doing? Hand it over.
Dad, his face red and eyes narrowed, looked demonic as he approached me.
Stop! Get your filthy hands off Mia!
Brian, now strong and sturdy, twisted Dad's arm.
Oh, let go, it hurts. I'll do anything, just forgive me.
Dad knelt down, crying and begging for forgiveness, but there was no way we couldn't forgive him.
If you'll do anything, then bring our kind Mom back.
Kind? My foot! She just nagged me for having a little affair.
You're still saying that? Then let's settle this with the police.
Hearing the word police, Dad's face changed.
Wait, please, not the police. I'm sorry, I really am.
After that, Dad and Nancy were arrested for taking Mom's life. During police questioning, they blamed each other and all the facts came to light. The two, showing no signs of remorse, will likely spend a long time in prison. Even if they get out, they've been fired from their jobs and disowned by their families. No one will associate with them. I'm working hard as a nurse, living peaceful and fulfilling days. Brian is studying hard, saying he wants to become a detective who protects the weak from the wicked. Since I'm also working, we've asked our grandparents to take it easy, and we plan to live happily as a family of 4 from now on.
All right, take care of dinner and baths for the grandkids, will ya? Claiming she had errands to run, Cindy tried to leave her grandchildren with me. Enough is enough. I've been inconvenienced by her time and time again. But what did Cindy just say? Take care of dinner and baths for the grandkids? She thinks I'm some kind of maid. This is ridiculous. I can't take it anymore, so I decide to stand my ground. Looking Cindy square in the eye, I retort. Excuse me? I'm not a nanny, you know? I'm Liliana, 72 years old. My husband, Victor, is a year older than me, 73. We have one daughter. She moved to the big city for a job and has been living in New York ever since. But she does visit us during long holidays. Though she didn't show any signs of getting married, even after turning 35, she finally did last year, giving both Victor and me peace of mind. We thought we'd made the most of the remaining years of our lives, so we decided to build the new house we'd always planned on. I was the one who strongly desired the new house. Being a watercolor painter, I'd always wanted a lovely studio, even though I've made do with a room in our home until now. Our old house was quite outdated. The floors creaked with every step, and the plumbing needed renovation. So we figured we might as well build a new house, customized to our liking. Though I'm past 70, I still have a decent income from opening solo exhibitions and publishing books. Therefore, I financed this new home. I haven't told anyone it's in my name. There's no need to. Since building my dream home, I've been thrilled to paint every day in my gorgeous studio. Victor,
though retired, helps out at a friend's farm during the day to keep himself sharp. In the evening, we share a meal in our cozy, wood-accented dining room and then relax in our spacious living room, sipping tea on the sofa. We often talk about how great it was to build this house. However, a dark cloud began to loom about a month after we moved in. My brother-in-law and his wife, upon hearing about our new home, started showing up unannounced. They are Victor's older brother, Randall, and his wife, Cindy. Their house is only a 20-minute drive from ours. While I understand they might be curious about the new place, it's just me at home during the day when they decide to drop by. I've got work to do as well, you know, so frequent visits are really inconvenient to me. The third time my brother-in-law and his wife came over, I tried to gently let them know. I'm working from home, so I can't really entertain guests right now. They replied with, "That's fine, don't worry about us. We'll make ourselves at home." Sure, you might not worry, but I do. I bite my tongue to keep from saying anything. Before long, Cindy starts bringing over her 5 grandkids. My brother-in-law's family has 2 daughters, both married with children. These kids, all 5 of them, range from 1st to 4th grade. I've met them before and they're adorable, but having them make noise while I'm trying to work at home is a different story. It'd be different if Cindy gave me a heads up. Then I could prepare for their visits, but no. She just started showing up unannounced with kids whenever they had a day off from school. It's just me and Cindy trying to manage these 5 little rascals. And she doesn't discipline them at all. The kids say they're on an adventure, running through my house, playing tag and superhero games, even scratching up my walls. When I try to step in, Cindy says, "Why are you getting mad? They're just kids." To add insult to injury, she criticizes me for not having snacks or juice ready. "We come over all the time. You knew the grandkids would be here. Why didn't you prepare anything? You're so inconsiderate." Well, I don't want you here in the first place, so why should I? Cindy's lax attitude only escalates the children's behavior until they actually walk into my home studio. Thankfully, they didn't touch my work, but that was the day I installed a lock on my studio door. Even with the studio off limits, the rest of my home gets trashed whenever they come over. When I finally asked her to reduce the visits, she told me, "This will be good practice for when you have grandkids." Yeah, right. I won't have 5 all at once, and if they were my grandkids, I'd be keeping an eye on them. Today, after Cindy and the kids left, I let out a sigh. As I looked at the room scattered with toys and candy wrappers. The toys probably came from their home, and the candy must have been given by Cindy. Again? My husband Victor just got home from work and says this to me, visibly frustrated. I get why he's annoyed, but I wish he'd say that to Cindy, not me. He's always been hesitant to speak to his older brother Randall, and the same goes for Cindy. Even when I ask him to do something about Cindy's frequent visits, he shrugs it off, saying, "It's not like they come every day. Taking care of a few kids can't be that hard." When I try to explain how much trouble these little monsters cause, he responds, "They're just kids. If you watch them properly, the house wouldn't get this messy." I guess Victor can say that because he has never taken care of those little monsters. The final word from Victor is this: "Enough already. Hurry up and clean up. You haven't even started making dinner, have you?" Look, I've been busy watching the kids all day. I haven't had a moment to cook. Then one day, Cindy crosses the line. She brings her 5 grandkids over and says, "I've got errands to run. Please take care of their dinner and bath," before heading out the door. That's it. I'm at my wit's end. After putting up with all her nonsense until now, what did Cindy just say? Take care of their dinner and bath? She clearly thinks I'm some kind of housekeeper. Unbelievable. I've had enough. It's time for me to strike back. I lock eyes with Cindy and say,
You do know I'm single, right? Cindy freezes, not knowing what I'm talking about. What are you going on about all of a sudden? Did you have a fight with Victor? Just take care of the grandkids, okay? Ignoring Cindy's attempt to brush me off, I decide to drop a bombshell. I'm divorcing Victor, so I can't look after the kids. What? If that's true, why are you still here? Shouldn't you be leaving? I just came back to pick up my stuff. The truth is, I haven't actually divorced him yet, but I'm seriously considering it. I contemplate telling Cindy that this is my house, and Victor should be the one leaving, but I decide not to. Not here. Not now. If we do get divorced, Victor will have to leave. The reason this even came up is because of a fight I had with Victor. Cindy keeps bringing her grandkids over. They're running wild, and I can't manage them all. When I told Victor, he didn't get it. To make matters worse, he says things like, "Clean up the room already. Is dinner ready yet?" That was the last straw for me. I can't be with someone who doesn't understand my situation. Let's get a divorce. Victor was initially flustered, pleading for me to reconsider, but then he said, "Don't you find Randall's grandkids cute? They don't come every day. Just take care of them when they visit on weekends. If you keep making a fuss, they'll never want to visit us when we have our own grandkids." Let's start with a separation. Before I knew it, those words had escaped my lips, emotionless, directed at Victor. Fed up with Victor, who wouldn't even consider what I'd been saying to him all this time, and only blamed me when I mentioned divorce. I decided to take action right away. I quickly packed up some essentials and left the house. I didn't want to leave my own home with my favorite studio, but Cindy's constant intrusions made it impossible to focus on my painting. So I opted for renting a short-term apartment to get some peace. Just as I was packing my art supplies and clothes, Cindy showed up. "I'll be leaving, so you'll have to talk to Victor about the rest." I gestured towards Victor, who had just come out from the back room. Victor was usually busy helping out at a friend's farm, but he had stayed home that day, apparently waiting for me. I had no intention of going back until Victor understood what I was going through. If he expects me to take care of our future grandchildren, then he'd better set an example. In the short-term apartment, Cindy stopped showing up, and I could finally focus on my work. Though it's a shame I couldn't use the studio I had built, at least I knew I could paint in peace. 3 weeks flew by as I immersed myself in art, keeping my phone off the entire time. When I finally turned my phone back on, I found messages and missed calls from Victor every single day. The last message read, "I get it now. What you've been going through? I was wrong. Please come back." It looked like actually dealing with those unruly kids had finally opened his eyes. I texted him, "We'll talk at home," and returned home after 3 weeks. Victor looked exhausted when he greeted me. "I'm sorry," was the first thing he said. The day I left to get my stuff, he had taken care of the kids for the first time, and found it way more challenging than he had expected. He said he couldn't manage cooking and bathing them while they ran around and didn't listen to him. Eventually, he had to ask Cindy to take them back. It seemed like Cindy kept bringing the kids over every time their school was off, leaving the house a mess. Victor told me he was doing his best to clean up afterward. He finally realized the tough situation I had been in and sincerely apologized for his earlier indifference. "I'll go talk to Cindy at Randall's house and tell her not to come over anymore. Please, let's start over." Seeing Victor's earnest attitude, I decided to forgive him for everything. Aside from the issues with Cindy and the kids, I had no other complaints about Victor. Thus, our separation ended after 3 weeks. So Victor made good on his word and went to have a talk with his brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Randall and Cindy. Randall was initially shocked, as Victor had never been assertive before, but he apologized, saying he didn't realize the situation was so bad. Cindy, as usual, didn't listen, insisting it was good practice for when they have grandchildren. In the middle of this heated conversation,
Their nieces and the 5 rowdy kids showed up at the parents' house, apparently by coincidence. The nieces asked Victor what was going on. So he told them how Cindy kept bringing the kids over to our house unannounced, leading to our separation. Upon hearing this, the nieces confronted Cindy, angrily asking, "Why did you do this?" "Mom said we can look after the kids. You've been taking them to Victor's house the whole time?" Cornered by the nieces' questions, Cindy tried to deflect, saying, "Oh, that's not true." However, a spontaneous testimony from the kids revealed the lie. "Grandma always says we should go to our great uncle's house because it's cleaner than here." Hearing this, the nieces scolded Cindy, saying they couldn't believe she'd been troubling me like this and asked her to never do it again. As it turns out, my nieces admire me as their watercolor painting teacher. During high school, they were part of the art club, and we used to paint landscapes together on nice days. Since they got married and had kids, we haven't had time to paint together. But they sometimes send me their art on WhatsApp and visit me when I have solo exhibitions. The nieces were also angry on my behalf. "Why didn't you listen to Liliana? It's totally understandable that she left." When confronted, all Victor could say was, "I'm sorry." Later, the nieces and kids came over to apologize. The kids had been reprimanded by their parents and were quietly sitting down. They had given us a heads up this time, so I prepared snacks and juices that the kids like. When I offered them, the kids politely said, "Thank you," and began eating. As the nieces and I chatted about art studios, I decided to give them a tour of my favorite studio. Upon entering, their eyes sparkled and they said, "Wow, this is amazing." Their compliments made me feel good. Before entering the studio, the nieces warned the kids not to touch anything. So the kids looked around without messing with the art, asking their aunts, "What's this? What's that?" After finding out about Cindy's constant visits to our house, the nieces decided to stop taking the kids to their parents' house. I felt a little sorry for Cindy, but apparently she never disciplines her grandchildren. The last time they went to a toy store, she caused a lot of trouble. One of the kids was swinging a toy sword and ended up hitting other products, breaking them and suffering a minor scratch. Typically, it's the parents' fault if their kids break something in a store. However, Cindy angrily confronted the store clerk, saying, "Why do you have breakable items in a toy store? What if a child gets hurt? What are you going to do about it?" A parent of one of the niece's kids' friends happened to be there and contacted the niece. She rushed to the store, deeply apologized, and compensated for the broken item. Hearing about this incident made her even angrier. You'd think the kids would miss their grandma if she was always spoiling them, but apparently that's not the case, according to the niece. When the niece asked the kids if they wanted to see their grandma, they said, "Nah, we'd rather go to our great aunt's house with Mommy. I want to play with great uncle again," they added. So in spoiling the kids and causing constant troubles for others, Cindy ended up being abandoned by both her niece and her grandchildren. Sad, but she had it coming. Cindy was so desperate to see her grandkids that she pleaded with the niece, "I won't take them to my son-in-law's place anymore. Just let them visit like before." But the nieces ignored her, thinking she would just cause trouble somewhere else. Then one day, Cindy apparently went to the elementary school to pick up the kids without telling the niece. The school teacher thought she was a kidnapper and called the police. Cindy was quickly released after the nieces explained to the cops, but not without receiving a long lecture from them. She's now even banned from attending school events. We get that it's tough not being able to see the grandkids, but if she really loved them, she shouldn't have pawned them off on us in the first place. Cindy confuses spoiling with loving. Until Cindy can properly care for the children, they won't be visiting her. The nieces have started bringing the kids to our house every now and then. Of course, they ask for my permission beforehand. These once rowdy kids are now quietly drawing pictures. We laid down a vinyl sheet so they won't make a mess, and they're freely drawing with crayons and colored pencils. The nieces are watching them while painting houses. Great aunt, look! One of the kids shows me a drawing of a superhero team. Oh, you're quite the artist, I said. Just then, Victor comes home from work, and two of the superhero-loving kids run towards him. He's the villain! They start chasing him around. Victor pleads with the nieces to stop the kids, but they laugh and say, Well, you were the real villain, weren't you? Picking on Liliana.
I've reformed now. Help me.
Victor and the nieces and I share a laugh. We don't know if we'll ever have our own grandkids, but thanks to these children, we're getting plenty of practice, and Victor won't be playing the villain anymore.